So welcome to video four, video 5 on the rules and regs guiding our practice. And we're going to talk about prohibited practices and disciplinary actions in this one. And there's a lot of rules and regs about identifying what is considered prohibited practice and grounds for disciplinary action. I'm going to try to give you a short version here. The first piece here is about practicing as a nurse when you don't have a license and you haven't received a diploma, or helping somebody do this, or even practicing when your license has been suspended. So that's prohibited practice first listed. There's a chunk here for grounds for disciplinary actions that might deny somebody's license or prevent an individual from taking the licensing exam. So, and that's anything that has to do with breaking the Nurse Practice Act or the BON rules or regs, and includes fraud and deceit. Contains criminal convictions or any results that result in probation. One thing that they have on here is a misdemeanor involving moral turpitude. And what that means, let me just show you a quick way to look up a synonym here so you can see easy way to do it. So anybody that's immoral or wicked is an example of what that means there. So having a counterfeit license, altered license, and faking exam results, or sending somebody else to take the exam. Aiding somebody in practice as a nurse when you know they're not really a nurse. Intemperate use, using drugs or alcohol on the job. Unprofessional conduct. Mental incapacity, lack of mental or physical fitness, or failures to conform with the standards of nursing practice. So they have a pretty big list of different reasons that a nurse might get disciplined. There's a few more details on it here. Intemperate use, when you define it or describe it, for the Board of Nursing, it's defined as being on duty or on call while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And this could be whether or not the drugs are prescriptioned or not. If that prescription med is one that might impair the nurse's ability to provide safe care, then that would be considered a piece of this intemperate use that's grounds for disciplinary action. There's unprofessional content on here, and this is another method designed to protect the public from incompetent nurses. It's one of the most important grounds, and it probably, when you look at unprofessional conduct, there's a lot of different areas that fall under that category. Whether it's deceiving or defrauding or injuring clients or the public, all of this is a piece that goes into unprofessional conduct and prohibited practices. And they have unsafe practices listed here, not conforming with standards of minimum acceptable level of care. Remember, we listed those 24 different standards of practice that are relevant to nursing, to RNs, and in the video 2, I think it was. And failing to conform, improper management of records, whether it's HIPAA or falsifying documentation, not delegating or assigning appropriately, accepting assignments that are inappropriately there, not supervising individuals you've delegated a task to. Even me, as a clinical instructor, if I'm not around to check out you guys and make sure you're doing okay and anything happens, then that would be considered unsafe practice. So, and it goes for administrative, chief administratives that don't make sure that their organizations follows the rules and reg. It has to do with practicing when your scope of practice and staying within there. If you're on an agreement that restricts your practice limitations, those kind of things. Anything that you might do that endangers a patient's life, health, or safety. It includes the ability to practice safely because you're on drugs or any mood altering substances. So So they have this in here more than once because, it's been a problem in the past, and narcotic misappropriation and nursing has a history because we have such easy access. But it also includes mental or physical conditions that might affect an individual's mental ability to practice too. Misconduct is listed here, and it goes back to falsifying reports, not cooperating with law enforcement, causing an injury or failing to report it, violating boundaries, engaging in sex with a client, threatening or being violent in the workplace, misappropriating, which is like stealing, whatever it might be, whether it's property or money or those kind of things. Um, Providing false information and connecting with in connection with practice, and that might have to influence the way you might a facility's decision to hire. That's another piece they're talking about there. And then getting money as a third party for a referral of a client in connection with performance of professional services. So once again, there's always a long list of things that individuals might do that might end them being disciplined by the board. That falls under misconduct. There's other things on here like not repaying a student loan or not paying child support. Drug diversion, once again, we're talking about diverting drugs from where they're supposed to be, like stealing drugs and or controlled substance from a facility. And individuals who have had issues with substance abuse might be part of a peer assistance program. And if that individual is an individual that is going to that peer assistance program is dismissed from it because, perhaps their urine screens don't come by clean or whatever reason they're considered non-compliant, then that would be a reason for disciplinary actions. There's other drug related things, using controlled substances that are listed in here, but it usually goes back to misappropriation and doing drugs or alcohol while on duty, or not following procedures to document them correctly. And there's one in here about policy and procedures of wasting meds is another piece, a positive drug screen, or attempting to get drugs or deliver drugs through fraud, forgery, deception, or subterfuge. So being a drug dealer is where that one falls in, right? More unlawful actions, right? Helping an unlicensed person engage in nursing practice, even though they're really not. Violating an order of the board, or violating the state or federal narcotics rules for controlled substances, and helping another nurse that's on a board order violate the conditions of the order. And we're going to talk about that board order in just a little bit. And then failing to report violations of the Nurse Practice Act or board's rules or regs. This is kind of big. Texas is what they call a mandatory reporting state. And so if I am aware a nurse is unsafe to practice and I don't report that, then I am at fault too. Now, if that nurse that I don't turn in unsafe is to practice ends up in a malpractice lawsuit, then I wouldn't be part of that lawsuit. But the Board of Nursing could be able to they would be able to address it through my license. So I might have practice restrictions or even lose my license if I'm aware of an issue and I don't report it. So mandatory reporting state, remember that. And the next one on here is leaving a nursing assignment without notifying the appropriate personnel. And this is where your patient abandonment comes in that you've heard about. Now, there's a disciplinary process available on the board website for just the general public to be even to file a complaint on a nurse, and there's instructions on how to do it. There's a lot of information in there too for nurses about the disciplinary process and what to expect, what happens when a complaint gets filed. And I would say if I was ever the subject of a complaint on the board of nursing, I mean, I would never remember all these rules or regs. I mean, I would say any nurse that's subject to a complaint, when they first find out about it, the first step should be go check out the rules and regs and see what's going to happen, because things change, and it's hard to remember all the different rules and regs attached to the complaint process. So there's a lot of sanctions that the board might be able to place on a nurse who is determined to have not followed rules and regs or the standards of practice of care. You know, they can just take somebody's license away. They can give them a written warning. They can do a public reprimand. They can limit an individual's practice. You know, to say, you know, like if I had a problem with narcotics, then my limitation might be that another nurse has to give all my narcotic meds to my patients for me. I'm not allowed to draw any or administer them. That the board can suspend or revoke a license or give individuals a fine. I think the fine is probably one of the most common ones, because the board of nursing, if they have to do any kind of investigation, then that fine is used to pay for, you know, part of that is to pay for the investigation process and determine the stipulations on the individual's license. Now there's other things that the board can do instead of or with, and that's to have an evaluation by a different type of provider or an educational program, or another thing that they might do is have a nurse practice under direct supervision of another nurse. All right. Um, there is, you know, the last one on here, you know, have a clean drug screen for a certain period of time. There is disciplinary matrix that's pretty complicated, but it's there if you want to look at it. The one thing that's interesting is that what they have now is also evaluators that look at nurses who have issues and to help determine whether or not that individual's safe to practice. Of anger management evaluators, chemical dependency evaluators, forensic psychological evaluators, mental health, neurophysical, and sex offender evaluators. So there's a lot of different evaluators that are out there for nurses who, I want to see if I can maybe get a short, that goes to the PDF. Let me see here. Let's go here. I want to show you there we go. The evaluation piece of it. One more click here. Yeah, while I'm here, I should show you this. Every nurse that has been found guilty of not following standards of practice, the outcome of the case is public knowledge. You know, they won't post this until the individual is found guilty, you know, until there's a settlement made, because the individuals are always innocent until proven guilty. But you know, you can just go in here and take a look, and you can look at the document and look at the outcome of any trial that they have on the Board of Nursing website. It's interesting if you're ever interested in the different things that have nurses get in trouble there. There's so many different pages to look at. That's the reason why I say if you ever get involved, you want to go look at the board website to see if you can find out exactly what you need to do next. Well, I'm not going to spend our time looking to show you the different evaluator pages, but you can go if you want to look at them and actually click on the survey tool that they use to check people out on that. Now there's different disciplinary sections listed on here, position statements that are attached to. So the next thing to talk to you about on this video is about what happens when a nurse is found guilty of breaking standards of practice. And what they talk about is informal resolution, which is also called an agreed order. And so let's say that I am a nurse who was found guilty of breaking standards of practice. I injured a patient who was post-radical prostatectomy by pulling his Foley out on day 3 and not even inflating the balloon. So it caused a lot of damage, right? And so this agreed order that the board, they they take my scenario, I speak to them, they assess the situation, and they say, okay, Debbie, you can keep your license if you agree to these conditions. And this is the agreed order piece of it. So it could be for me, remedial education on skills, a fine, a warning for unsafe practice, continuing education or professional development on skills. I need to go take classes on how to do nursing skills safely. And then I could have my practice supervised by another nurse for like a period of a year. So I say, okay, I will do all of these things if you just let me keep my nursing license. And so the agreed order goes into place. And these are practice stipulations that are posted on the board website on that list I just showed you. And right there, when you click on an individual, when you go to check their license, like verify their license, when you see somebody's license that's on practice stipulations, you can see that information right there at the same time you verify their license. So there's your agreed orders. Okay, I agree to do this, right? So if I agree to do this, right? And I don't do it, let's say, oh, I blow off taking the skills course on how to do nursing, nursing stuff, right? Then I break that agreed order, then I'm done. I lose my license, right? So there's no going back. There's no second time whatsoever. If I'm working on an agreed order, this settlement between me and the board of nursing that says I can keep my license if I do this stuff and I don't do it, then I'm done. I can't be a nurse anymore. And that's what they call the informal resolution process, working on an agreed order. And the board, they're out there, they're required to report any disciplinary action. So that's the reason why they're posted out there where anybody can see them. Any general public can see them. So the general public can make a complaint, and the general public can look up an individual license or individual nurse, see if there's any practice stipulations on their license, or see if there's a court case that's involved in their license, what the details of it are. So that is, I believe, everything. Whoops. That y'all need for prohibited practices and disciplinary actions. The end of video 5.